Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan commenting on his good friend, Tony Hinchcliffe. If you did not know, Tony Hinchcliffe is under major fire, and I just did an episode about this. A comedian getting canceled for a joke, an obvious joke. It happened to Tyler Fisher just a couple of weeks ago, and it's happening again in even crazier fashion to Tony Hinchcliffe. So we're going to play the Joe Rogan clip first. Then I'm going to show you the joke that Tony Hinchcliffe made. Then I'm going to show you Tim Walz and AOC's reaction to the joke. I know, ew, but still. Jon Stewart's reaction to the joke, which is actually surprising. And then Michael Schellenberger surprisingly steps in for Tony and defends him and breaks down exactly what's going on, the attack from the media and what the joke was really about. So let's get right into that. I am in the vacation studio, but I'm not on vacation. I'm moving. Let's get into it.
Be able to say racist things. You're right, and they were right.
You
know, and that's why I came to Texas.
Whoever booked him is in their pants right now.
Why did you do that? I tell all comedians, don't ever do comedy at something that's not a comedy event. Don't do it. Don't ever do comedy at a place that's doing also. Doing, is it gonna have a bunch of speakers and you're gonna go up and do 10 minutes? Don't ever do that. It's a terrible setup. It's a terrible setup, and it's a political rally, and you're doing jokes like you're in a comedy club. It doesn't. You can't. Don't do it.
I don't really blame Tony though, because Tony is what Tony is, right? Like if you want an insult comic, Tony is the best in the world.
That's literally his great specialty is roasting.
Right. So
he's the best roaster ever.
If you book Tony Hinchcliffe is going to be Tony Hinchcliffe.
Exactly.
So whoever booked him, that's the person that's made the mistake.
Not just booked him, but apparently went over his material.
Did they go over his material?
No.
Oh my.
This is what I've read on the internet, so it must be true.
In the words of Donald Trump, someone's getting fired, man.
I got to tell you, that joke kills at comedy clubs. I don't like the joke. It kills. And I said to him, it's just like, if you're Puerto Rican and you hear that in the audience, like, oh. But it's a funny joke. The joke does well. But I said to him, I go, dude, that's the one that's going to get you stabbed.
Really?
Yes. And he used to talk about it on stage, saying, Joe Rogan always says, that's the one that's going to get me stabbed. Like,
wow.
Which is so crazy.
Yeah.
I think you'd pick stabbed at this point, given the that's going down.
I think it'll blow over, just like all these things do.
Yeah,
and there's people that are always going to hate someone like Tony, and it's going to make other people love him more. It's just like he's going through it right now.
Yeah.
You
know,
he's going through the storm.
As somebody who, has wound up, who winds people up. We've wound people up on our time.
Yeah, you guys are winders.
We get called something beginning with W, right?
Oh, well, you guys, that's a negative over there. Winder. You can call someone a wanker here, and it's just like,
sure.
It's like calling them a It doesn't really work.
But when I saw what Tony did, I went, all right, mate, you're in a different league now to me. That is another level.
Yeah, Obama was quoting his bit, but he was quoting it like it was a statement.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really fucked up. He was quoting it like he was saying someone called Puerto Rico an island of garbage. But that's a joke. That's like going to a Quentin Tarantino movie, and then the man killed that woman. Like, he didn't really kill that woman. That's like a doll.
Yeah.
This is a movie. No one died. Everyone's fine. They all like each other.
But if you give them ammunition...
Yeah, it's the problem. We were discussing this in the bathroom. Like, it's like, that's their job. That's what they have to do.
They got to do it.
That's their job.
You give them ammunition, they're going to use it.
Of course they're going to do it. That's what they do. Like, you can't assume they're going to be a good person and not use it in this critical moment. How many days are we? Like 8 days before the election? That's crazy. That's so soon. Of course you're going to use everything. I'd use it too.
But you know what? It nicely encapsulates modern politics because it's a storm about nothing. It's a storm about a joke at a rally. And actually, everybody's focusing on that instead of the huge problems that America has, which we all need to be discussing. And we need to be discussing in a calm, serious, and sober manner. Because, for example, if you have an open border, that's an existential crisis. Because if you can't control your borders, you don't have a country. But we don't talk about that, really. We're getting upset because Tony Hinchcliffe came along and called Puerto Rico a trash.
But he didn't even call him. He made a joke,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. He made a joke.
There's an island of trash.
Yeah.
It's called Puerto Rico. Here's where that joke comes from. Tony is actually obsessed with the Pacific garbage patch, and like the fact that we just throw, like we were talking about, like recycling. Like recycling doesn't work. They don't do it. Most of your bottles, when you throw in a recycler, they get put in landfills. So there's a landfill in Puerto Rico that's way overflowed. Puerto Rico has a legitimate trash problem. because they're on an island. Like, where are you going to put it, right? There's all these people living on that island. Where are you going to put it? And so they have landfills. Their landfills are way over capacity. So that's where the joke came from.
Right.
Like, the joke came from, like, Tony being environmentally conscious about recycling.
Yeah, they don't seem to have taken it that way.
But from his roaster perspective, that's where the joke comes from.
Totally.
I think it's called Puerto Rico. And you say it and everybody laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, we were at the rally, and people say no one laughed. Not quite true. Like, it didn't get a big laugh, but it got a bit of a laugh.
It's a funny joke.
Yeah.
It's, even Jon Stewart said it was a funny joke, which I thought was great of him.
He had much better ones that got a bigger response, but yeah.
It's a terrible, people are like, well, it wasn't funny. Right. Because it was a terrible setup for comedy. Everything was wrong. If you were at a comedy club and the guy did that set, you'd be laughing. It's just a bad setup. Everything's wrong. It's like, you don't go to see acoustic music while people are using jackhammers around you, right? Like, it's not the right setup.
Right.
You want to go where somewhere it's quiet.
Yeah.
And stand-up comedy should be done in a comedy environment, in a club, there is a great video, though, I should say, of Don Rickles. Don Rickles in the... Have you seen that? Reagan's inauguration?
The Reagan,
Don Rickles was a G, boy. He was a funny man. He was so good. It really translates today. Like, you watch that set, it really translates today. But I think Don Rickles was almost like, he was in this category of ultra famous comedian, right? He was in this Dave Chappelle type category, where just seeing Don Rickles, all of a sudden it was a comedy show. Like, oh my God, Don Rickles is here. Tony Hinchcliffe does not have that. Right? If Dave Chappelle went up and did 10 minutes in front of Donald Trump or 10 minutes in front of Kamala Harris, that's a different thing. Because it's like, he's a cultural icon, and you immediately go into stand-up comedy mode. Like, oh, shit, Chappelle's here. Right? That's what Don Rickles had with Reagan. Tony doesn't have that. It's a bad thing to do. The whole thing's bad. It's like doing a bachelor party. Like, when you have to do comedy at bachelor parties, they want whores and why is this guy telling jokes? But it's just a bad environment. It's a bad environment for comedy. And, that joke, I would have told him, don't you fucking dare do that joke. I never, sat down with him. I didn't know what bits he was going to do. But then I heard he did that joke. I was like, oh Jesus, Tony. Here it comes.
I think there are comedians probably who... I think Tony's the wrong type of comedian for that environment. If you had someone 100%. Come in who wasn't a roast comedian, who actually made everyone feel good and was just clean...
Who could do it and just talk about cultural issues and get everybody to laugh is Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is really good at that. He could do something like that because he's so knowledgeable when it comes to politics. He could bridge the gaps between humor and fact and reality and what we're up against. He could do that. But it's not Tony's wheelhouse, man. Tony's just talking shit about people's clothes and stuff. Like, he's very shallow with that. Like, his comedy is all just, you're a loser. But it's fun. It's like, and he'll get through it. He's going through a storm, and that's what happens with all these things, with people like that. But it's good for him, too. Like, when he got canceled in the past, he came back way stronger as a comic because he felt like he had to prove something. Like, it made him really tighten up his material, like really edit things well and really write sharp stuff. That's what'll happen with him. He'll come back better.
Yeah, the thing I really like about Tony is Tony's a fighter. You can tell. When we interviewed him on our show and we talked to him, I'm like, you're a fighter. That's who essentially he is. And he's going to come back from this better and stronger. And it's everybody who is smart realizes that this is a storm about nothing. And it's being used and politicized and weaponized by the Democrat Party because that's what they do. That's what every side do.
It's also because it's effective.
Right.
Like, that's their job. Like, it makes sense that they would do that. That's literally their job. Their job is to win this fucking election. And if they can win this election by finding some lady who says Trump in the 80s, then roll her out. Roll her out. Like, who else you got? There's all kinds of crazy allegations on both sides. I've seen nutty things that I don't even want to repeat about Kamala Harris, and I'm sure aren't true, but it doesn't matter. They're just throwing things out there as much as possible. The thing is, most people aren't even paying attention to them.
It makes me so angry, my great-grandfather, he died on the Eastern Front fighting actual Nazis. These comparisons are just... they're illegitimate, and what they do also is they take the power away from the words, because now if you say this guy is a Nazi, there are some Nazis.
All right, that's where they ended on Tony Hinchcliffe. I will say one thing. Jimmy Dore, I have to actually do this. I never look at my phone, but I don't have any paper here with me, so I had to take my notes and everything on my phone. But Jimmy Dore is good. Jimmy Dore is very good. But there's a lot of people on the right, and you might know this too. he's the guy who spit in Alex Jones's face. So he's not quite, you know, they see him as he's young Turks. They might see him as left leaning. I don't know if that would be his gig. I think the perfect person would be Tyler Fisher. He would be the perfect guy. He does an incredible Trump impression. He could do a Jordan Peterson impression. He does a hilarious Kamala Harris impression. That's it. That's what you want. If you're going to have a comedian, you want a guy who's going to do impressions. He's going to do some Trump. People are going to go crazy. He's going to do some Kamala. He's going to make her sound silly. That's exactly what you want. Done. He can act like a woke person. He could call out the woke nonsense. That's exactly what that crowd needed. He would have murdered if he was on there. I don't know how Tony got into that position. Not saying Tony didn't deserve it, but just think about it. Tyler Fisher would have came out in a MAGA hat, dressed like he just got finished driving a truck across country. Tony Hinchcliffe, on the other hand, you know, shows up in a suit and everything, and it's nice. So I'll play the joke for you guys. Here it is.
Republicans are the party with a good sense of humor. Free speech is under attack, people. I host a show, and each week I get updates what words we're allowed to use and not use anymore. It's happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing. And, you know, used to be able to tell people to Google stuff. My mom's a boomer in the state of Ohio, and there's no convincing her of anything. She's eating the cats. She's eating the dogs. They're eating the pets up there. It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right, very good. I like it. I have other policies that I think it should be implemented as well. Like me personally, I think football should be all year round.
So I'm not going to go too much into what he did, but that was the joke. The Puerto Rico joke. That was it. That's what he said. And to Joe Rogan's credit, Joe Rogan just broke down what the joke really stems from. If you knew about the floating island of trash and that you think about that, and then he would turn it to Puerto Rico and you'd be like, wow, why'd he do that? I understand that joke. A lot of people don't know that there's literal floating trash. They don't know that. So many people. So I don't know why Tony did that joke. I'll be honest, but it is a joke, and it did give them ammunition. That was something that I believe Francis said on there. Gave them ammunition, and obviously they're going to use it, even though it is a storm about nothing, which is exactly what he said. They're going to use it. They're trying to make it into something, which is why you have AOC and Tim Walsh reacting to it. Honestly, like they even care. Listen to this.
Who is that jackwad? Who is that guy?
Actually, I think that's Tony Hinchcliffe, which is super disappointing. I mean, I don't. He's a comedian. I don't follow
look, Trump,
this like
this
crew
issue
very
with Puerto
closely,
Rico
but
again. I saw it. This was when he went down after Helene, the horrific hurricane. People there, everybody coming together. We sent helicopters down from Minnesota and personnel. You know how you do this during this. And in the first hours, Trump complaining about the response. Does anybody remember how he responded to Maria in Puerto Rico? It was absolutely horrific. Down there insulting people, throwing it. Look, I know that the folks who are on here today understand this. People in Puerto Rico are citizens. They pay taxes and they serve in the military at almost a higher rate than anybody else.
yeah, I mean, it's like super upsetting. Obviously, it's super upsetting to me. My family is from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican, and like the thing that is so messed up that I wish more people understood is that the things that they do in Puerto Rico are a testing ground for the policies and the horrors that they wish to and that they do unveil in working class communities across the United States. And I need people to understand that when you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
Who's they? Who's they? AOC. Who is they that you're talking about? They test out things? Who's they right now? You know Trump's not in office. Who's they? I think I know who they is. I think I know who they is. I think it's Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Just putting it out there. And just so you know, what actually happened when it came to, I'm going to bail my boy Trump out every time. You already know what actually happened with that hurricane is he sent an enormous amount of supplies, aid, all sorts of stuff, water, everything you could think of. It sat in a warehouse for months. Actually, it got to the point where people were breaking into the place to take the stuff, and the governor just kind of let it sit there. So that's actually how Trump responded. He gave them a bunch of aid. Yeah, he said some brash things because that's what Trump does. But then he sent an incredible amount of aid, and the governor acted like he didn't. Interesting. Now, let's move on to Jon Stewart, ladies and gentlemen. A surprising take from Jon Stewart. I've done many videos about him, calling him a shill and all sorts of stuff. But in this case, he actually has something pretty solid to say. He let his media propaganda side fall to the side, and he just embraced his comedian side on this one.
Here's the alarms. The opening act, wrapping headlines.
Of course I'm listening to it that fast. My bad. Let's make that normal for the normal people out there.
For all the wrong reasons, a comedian who offered unfunny, racist, cringeworthy jokes.
Basically calling Puerto Ricans trash.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Disgusting and hateful.
So incredibly crude.
Frankly, just too X-rated to play here.
Extremely vile so-called jokes.
Extremely vile so-called jokes. She name-checked my comedy album from the 90s. Did I really? I don't know who's AI, me or that guy. Now, obviously, in retrospect, having a roast comedian come to a political rally a week before Election Day and roasting a key voting demographic, probably not the best decision by the campaign politically. But to be fair, the guy's really just doing what he does. I mean, here he is at the Tom Brady roast a few months ago.
Okay, now I gotta stop it right there because the stuff that Tony says in this roast is wild. If you got Netflix, go check it out. It's absolutely crazy. He's talking about black people. He's talking about white people. He's going in on Tom. It's actually great. And he actually wrote an enormous amount of everybody's jokes. So it wasn't just him roasting. He also wrote people's jokes. It's actually incredible. Listen to this.
Of course, terrible, boo, yes. There's something wrong with me. I find that guy very funny. So, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bringing him to a rally and have him not do roast jokes, that'd be like bringing Beyonce to a rally and not have... Oh.
Wow, with the dig at Kamala Harris at the end. I didn't even watch the clip up until that point, guys. Jon Stewart digging at Kamala Harris. There you go. You know, Beyonce was at her rally. She did not sing. It was very disappointing for all of the, I don't know, teenage girls who were at the Kamala Harris. I don't know. I don't know who's looking to hear Beyonce sing. But Jon Stewart being a comedian about this is exactly what the guy does. Tony Hinchcliffe is a roast comedian. It's what he does. It gets vile. It gets out of control. He digs deep on people. He gets personal. He doesn't play around. He's not a comedian that you want to heckle because he'll go right in on you for about 10 minutes. And he goes in on people on a weekly basis on his own show, Kill Tony. I don't know why the Trump campaign thought he was the guy to have there. I don't know if it's because Trump and Joe Rogan connected and then Joe Rogan's always talking up his boys and he said he's the best. I have no idea how that happened, but it should have been Tyler Fisher. 100%. Best political comedian out right now is Tyler Fisher. There's no one better. No one better. He's the greatest. He has one of the best Trump impressions. Like, come on. But anyway, let's get into Michael Shellenberger. Michael Shellenberger calls out everything for what it really is. He says the media's claiming that a comedian at a Trump rally today made a racist joke about Puerto Ricans. He didn't. He was poking at the island's infamous trash problem. Now, check this out. For the people that don't know, this is a real thing. They have a real issue when it comes to trash. He also posted this. Trash crisis leaves Puerto Rico near the brink. What's that say in the small text there? Puerto Rican landfills fail to meet federal standards or almost full. So this is a real thing that's happening, and it's really harming Puerto Rico. So Tony Hinchcliffe knew what he was talking about. It was just the wrong time and the wrong crowd for it. Michael Shellenberger also points out how ridiculous the media was being. If you didn't hear about this, this is what the mainstream media was saying. This is NBC. You know, as Trump courts their vote, comedian at his rally makes racist jokes about Latino. Like, this is just a joke, guys. This is a comedian. Trump headlines Madison Square Garden after vulgar racist remarks. Like, it's just... This is clearly a joke. This was a joke. It wasn't even a good joke. It wasn't even a long joke. It wasn't that stabby. It was literally just a little joke and a quick punchline, and he moved on. He said some other things about Latinos, but it was funny. You know, that is what comedy is supposed to be. Back in the day, that's what you were supposed to be able to do with comedy. You're supposed to be able to laugh. Everybody was supposed to be able to sit down and be like, we are all going to get it right now. This guy, hopefully he goes at all of us. And whether you were black, you were Italian, you were white, you were Jewish, you knew that the comedian was going to get to your people at some point. And you wanted him to, because you wanted to hear what he had to say. You wanted that to happen, but not anymore. Not anymore. Oh, let's end it off with Joe Biden. Joe Biden, what he has to say about Tony Hinchcliffe, not just Tony Hinchcliffe, but also all Trump supporters. Listen to this.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
One more time.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home.
Was just about to say Puerto Rico, where I'm from. Hey, go to sleep, Joe. Just go to sleep. It's okay. It's okay. Just half of... He's like, how many people did that person claim are garbage? 100, a couple million? All right, hold my beer. Let me call 78 million people, probably 84 million people. Let me call all of them garbage. Because of what Tony Hinchcliffe said at a Trump rally. I've said it 100 times on this show. The decency, the common human sympathy, the niceties, they all go away if you are a Trump supporter. If you support Trump, all of that goes. All of that is thrown to the wayside, and people just treat you like you are Trump. It is the craziest thing to see. I never, ever treat somebody like they're Kamala Harris if I know that they're left-leaning. I don't do that. I get them a helmet. I get them a nice place to sit. I make sure they get a warm beverage because it's been a long day for them, bumping into walls and whatnot. I'm kidding. See, that was a joke like Tony Hinchcliffe. I'm joking, YouTube. That wasn't serious. I was kidding around. Oh my gosh. Might be a little more ominous because of the lights that I'm under right now. These lights look terrible. I look like I'm going to tell a scary story. And then Joe Biden rose from the dead at 109 years old and called America garbage. But that's everything going on with Tony Hinchcliffe. Trump's campaign has actually tried to distance themselves from Tony Hinchcliffe. I can't really hate on that. That's obviously going to happen. It's too close to the election for them not to do something like that. But man, it's just a joke. And the funny thing is, for sure, I actually saw a meme of this, but this is always how it is. The meme was it was a room just of white liberal women, and they were like most of the people who were offended by Tony Hinchcliffe's joke. I'm sure there's Puerto Ricans who are super left leaning who are like, I need a reason to hate Trump. Oh, there it is. But I'm sure most of them were just like, come on. I'm sure some laughed. I'm sure some were actually like, yeah, there's a garbage problem. This guy knows. How does this guy know? It's just a joke, man. It's crazy what's happening to people over jokes. Anyways, guys, I am on the way to Texas. I've told you guys so many times I'm always in and out of Texas. I want to plant roots in Texas. Right now, I'm in Ohio, and I have to say, I like Ohio a lot. I like it. I like the people. I like what I'm seeing. I like the houses. I like the way everything looks. I hate snow, but this is a place to consider, definitely. But we're planting roots in Texas. Soon you're going to see the show going live in Texas. I'm going to work on that. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring you that information. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Helps us tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.